He's Paul Charchi, and I'm Mike Durkin, and this is Fantasy Victory Now. And Paul, running backs always produce under Gary Kubiak. There was Mike Anderson, Tatum Bell in Denver, Arian Foster, and Ben Tate in Houston. But in Baltimore, more than any place he's been, it's been a total roulette wheel. So what do you make of the running back situation in Baltimore?
Yeah, it has been awfully tricky, Mike. And, you know, last week we really expected that Bernard Pierce was going to be back and he was active. So we figured, and they told us Bernard Pierce goes back to the top of the depth chart. Okay, so some people started Bernard Pierce. Then he barely saw the field, and they went with Justin Forsett, who looked great. And Forsett and then Taliaferro got some carries as well. Didn't look as good last week as he had the week before. This thing's really hard to figure out. But I will say this. Out of all of the group, Bernard Pierce has looked the worst by a lot. And I can see a 1-2 punch that makes the most sense to me is Justin Forsett, who's elusive and fast and can run to the outside, teamed with Lorenzo Taliaferro, who's your north-south power runner. I think that makes a ton of sense to me. And I wonder if in time in Baltimore, they don't end up going to that kind of approach that seems to use the best of two different, really radically different styles of skill sets that you get with those two players. And if that's the case, it leaves Bernard Pierce on the outside looking in. And frankly, based on what he's given us over the last couple of years, that's fine because he hasn't been very good.
All right, at the start of the season, it was vintage Arian Foster, but right now it's just plain old Arian Foster with that bad hamstring. Is Arian Foster just kind of done at this point?
I'm not ready to say Arian's done, but you know, you're going to have to show some caution. This is going to be an inconsistent offense. It's a Ryan Fitzpatrick offense, and you're going to have to look for the right ways to start him. You know, they used him copiously in the first 2 weeks, too much. Gave him 60 touches in the first 2 weeks. You can't do that with an injury-prone back like him. So now, last week, they erred on the other side. You know, only a dozen, I think he had a total of a dozen total touches. So they're going to try to find a middle ground here for Arian Foster where they can use him some, not too much, and try to still be productive with him. But after those first 2 weeks of use, I don't think we're going to get those kind of usage numbers from him again, and that means we're going to have some inconsistent fantasy results.
What about in a dynasty league? What kind of value do you see Arian Foster having going forward?
Pretty sketchy because every year he seems to be getting a little bit worse and a little bit harder to predict from a fantasy standpoint, and so the value is only going down on Arian Foster.
All right, Cordarrelle Patterson had that big Week 1 coming out party involved in the running game and the passing game, but he seems to just almost have been written out of the game plan at this point. So when will Cordarrelle Patterson start producing again, and is Jarius Wright the new Cordarrelle Patterson?
I don't think Jarius Wright is the new Cordarrelle Patterson, but I'll tell you, Jarius Wright actually played a really good game, both from a receiving standpoint and a blocking standpoint. But Cordarrelle Patterson's a freakish talent that should get the ball in his hands more often. They keep saying they want to, and for all of us casual fans, we think that it only makes sense for Cordarrelle to get the ball more. Very baffling that they haven't found ways, manufactured ways to get the ball in his hands. There are those who believe that some of last year's route running deficiencies have cropped back up after a preseason in which Cordarrelle got a lot of praise for the improvement that he had in his route running. So part of it might be upstairs with Cordarrelle. And that's the kind of thing that coaches would never say publicly. They would never say, Cordarrelle's not in the right spot. We can't throw him the ball when he's not in the right spot. That could be a problem. That could be part of what's holding him back.
All right, Tom Brady and the Patriots, they hit rock bottom Monday night. Earlier this year,
really did.
You said Tom Brady might even be droppable. Does Tom Brady even belong in a roster at this point?
Well, last week, I said drop him outright. He was in our 5 players to drop a bit that we have on Fantasy Victory every week. We've got one up there now. So we were ahead of the curve by a week. Now he's going to be dropped, in a lot more leagues. You may have gotten the jump on that and then not started him on Monday night. Look, Tom Brady is simply not accurate. His offensive line's very bad, and that's creating all kinds of problems for him. He's making bad decisions. I mean, the great thing about Tom Brady throughout his career has been the accuracy in the decision-making. And when those falter, now we've got a guy who doesn't have an NFL caliber arm making bad decisions. So it's really dicey on Brady, and he does not belong on rosters. The question now is there a scenario where he doesn't finish out the year? And there really is. I mean, Jimmy Garoppolo was very good in preseason, and for whatever it's worth, he looked good in mop-up duty as well on Monday night.
Yeah, Jimmy Garoppolo getting his first NFL reps, so maybe take a flyer on him, and definitely in a dynasty format.
In a dynasty, yeah, absolutely. In dynasty and Empire leagues, you'll definitely want to put a flyer on Garoppolo. And then, for this year, if you've got a really, really deep league, then I could see maybe stashing Garoppolo and waiting, but otherwise, he'd be tough. You're almost waiting more for injury. I mean, Bill Belichick is as gutsy a coach as there is, but is he going to be gutsy enough to bench Tom Brady? I don't know that he can do that unless Brady is so bad that his hand is forced on it.
Side effect of Tom Brady's ineptitude, Rob Gronkowski, yet to hit the 50-yard mark this year.
Yeah.
He has had fantasy week saving touchdowns the first 3 weeks, but just really laid an egg on Monday night. Is Tom Brady off of the tight end Mount Rushmore as long as Brady continues to struggle?
Well, we're still, the temptation is to say yes, but keep in mind, it's only through 4 weeks, and he's just coming back from the knee surgery. He's still not playing every down like he ought to be playing, and not even close. So, Gronkowski has been scoring touchdowns. He got a garbage time touchdown on Monday night. So, I still think he is a top 5 tight end, but right now he's not in the class with the best guys, your Jimmy Graham types. And frankly, he wasn't even the best tight end on the field on Monday night. I mean, that was probably Travis Kelce. But I still think he's a guy that belongs in your starting lineup every single week.